Welcome everybody. Welcome to the webinar on the Smartwatch Hackathon of Wur and One Planet. In a moment you will hear more information from experts. You get an introduction, and my name is Mirjam Troost. I'll be the moderator of today. The program, we will have 1 hour. First, Daoud Urdu, he will make an introduction to the hackathon and tell you about the program, etc. Then Sjoukje Ozinga will give you an introduction to quantified self. Then Haukje Adema will talk about wearables and consumer research. After that, we will hear Marvin Kunz about an introduction to Flory World. And after that, we invite you all to ask questions about the challenge, but also about the introductions. Well, how do you do that? You can fill in your questions in the chat. You will see that at the right side of your screen. Or if you are using mobile, you will see it below. So please don't hesitate, ask all your questions in the chat, and after all the introductions and mini lectures, we will get back to you. So for now, I want to introduce you to Mr. Daoud Urdu. He will give you an introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mirjam. So welcome all. My name is Daoud Urdu. I'm a researcher at Wageningen Economic Research, and as a project leader, we co-organized this hackathon, which I will talk about. I will begin with just briefly introduce the hackathon. So we have a strategic question or objective we want to achieve. We want to know how to smartly combine self-reported measures with rational physical parameters. And so for this objective, we are engaged in a small innovative project, as so-called, within a research program, digital-driven high-tech. So let me go to the next slide. Our goal is to provide answers or a solution which should provide answers to objectives which we have. We have identified 3 main topics for which the hackathon is organized. We have the consumer domain for having a sustainable food intake on consumer behavior research. We have the Flory World topic, which is about a positive impact on well-being with flowers and plants. And there is this topic of quantified self, developing recently, which is about self-care with the help of wearables and new technologies. We have experts for these 3 topics, which who will give you information and hopefully also inspiration to take part of this hackathon. We will let you know if you register, if there will be teams which you will be involved or individual registrations. And hopefully we will have interdisciplinary teams, so looking to these challenges from different angles. So this is just the short outline of the program which we have. On the 26th and 27th, we will have the hackathon. It will begin with a kick-off. There will be also a check-in on the 27th. And there is the deadline of 2 p.m. Central European Time on the 27th to submit your idea. And on the same day, 2 hours later, we will have already an award ceremony. So just some notes on the play book and the rules. You have to choose on one of the challenges you want to work on. And you can engage with our experts through an online platform. You will be provided by information which platform that is and how to register. And throughout the hackathon, you can ask questions and validate your idea with our experts. Why should you apply, or why should you submit your idea? It's you will learn a lot of Wageningen University and research, and also about One Planet and how to collaborate, which opportunities there are. You will probably also have a lot of fun because it's an adventure to take part. And lastly, we have 6 Bengal smartwatches which you can win. So there is a lot of reasons to apply. Just some closing remarks. So you can register until 18th of November until 12 p.m. On the following link. We will provide this link also later. And you can also ask questions still after this webinar. I will give the word to my colleague Sjoukje for the next presentation.
Hello, everyone. I can see that 12 people are here. I cannot see who you are exactly, but welcome all. I'm one of the lecturers of a course called Quantified Self, so that's also what I'm going to present now. By the way, I think that you did not mention that there is also really technical support from Bengal developers available during the hackathon. So if you have a very technical approach, you can also really have programming advice and so on, because our presentations will be more on the ideas and the concepts, so that you get inspired and that you can then decide what you want to do exactly. Okay, quantified self, that's a term that came up not very long ago. There's also an institute called Quantified Self Institute, and there's lots of initiatives going on, and basically it has to do with the urge that people have to measure things on themselves by means of wearables, which could be smartwatches, but they could also be apps on your smartphone, or they could be other technological solutions to measure things. Basically things that have to do with food intake and with activities, health, so nutrition and health. That's the quantified self angle. Yeah, what does it come down to? It means that through a wearable device, for example, consider yourself doing some kind of sports activity or following a diet, you need the app or you need your watch to be informed, and also to enter data, or the app, the smartphone app or the wearable can register itself through sensors and other technological solutions what you are doing. So you are registering the dietary intake, for example, the activities that you're doing with all the details. But there's also something going on with connecting with other available data. So you could, for example, imagine that if you do a run, then it's very useful to have a connection with Google Maps to know where you are running, or to have a connection with the weather database to know what kind of weather it was. So those connections with other databases are also usually important. Then there is this inform function. The person wearing the watch or the smartphone, whatever, should be informed, and you could think of when and what would this person want to know. So the inform function is also there, and it should help motivate. So if there is some goal to be achieved, then somehow this should be also part of the application on the app or the watch. In our course, we really focus therefore on a variety of disciplines. So in our course, it's about dietary behavior, but also about lifestyle. For example, people with a certain disease or overweight people, for example, that it's very important that their lifestyle also fits the goal they want to achieve. But that's not all, because the real challenge actually comes in the communication part. How do you motivate and convince users of the app that it's really important and necessary? Intervention strategies is another thing. What can you do to help change things? And of course, the last one here, the technical part, is important as well. What do we mean by the what can the technology do, and user interface aspects and so on. For now, I would like to focus a little bit on behavior change, because I think that is a very interesting part of this development also for app developers. We all know how hard it is to change behavior, right? We've all set our resolutions. We all wanted to be active, to lose weight, to go out of the house more often, and usually after some time it doesn't happen anymore. Why is that so hard, and how can we make it easier, and can we also make it maybe more fun? Well, people have been thinking about that. Oh, by the way, I'm now focusing on behavior change. So assuming that you would want to change behavior, not every app needs that. You could also have an app that is just making some assessment without the will to, or the goal to, change behavior. But for this one, looking at what is at the core of this problem, that it is so hard to change behavior, well, you can try to unravel that. There is this self-control conflict, because we are very tempted to lean to the orange box there. Instant gratification and temptation that is lying here, like some nice food item. If I have something in my kitchen that I like, I'm going to eat it because it's there. And if it wouldn't have been there, I might have not eaten anything because there was no temptation. And the gratification is right away. And on the blue side, in the blue box, we see that the real award is usually something that is on a longer time scale. It's more in the future. You have to be focused to remember what lies on the end of your journey. And that's much harder. So this conflict is either in food or in, gaming. You don't want to game anymore, but you are tempted, and so you will instead of going to bed early, etc. In all these situations, there's this conflict. And it's important to somehow resolve that conflict, and that's where the apps come in. They can help us resolve that conflict and then try to steer the journey towards what we really want. So what can you do? You can think of things like monitoring. Try to really monitor what's going on. That's the first thing. And then evaluate, is this a good or a bad thing? For example, counting hours or counting something. Was that as much as you thought it would be? And is that good? Is it bad? And then reinforce, try to really move to some better style and keep that going. And that's the hard part. So in our course, we have some theories underlying this. I'm not going to kill you with theory today, but one interesting picture might be this one. Behavior depends on three things, according to this theory. Capability, can I do it? Do I have the ability to act? Opportunity, what's the environment offering? Like the piece of cake lying on my sink, on my counter. Or opportunity as in, okay, I want to move, but do I have maybe another person that invites me to go with them? That's also an opportunity. And all these things contribute to motivation, and motivation is the most important part to help you act the way you would like to act. So this kind of models could help you think about, okay, where are we and what could we affect with an app? There's also developments to make it all more fun and more engaging. I don't know if you know this app, Zombies Run, but it's a real existing app trying to make gamers more active. And how can you make gamers more active? Well, by making it a game. So they have a mission to accomplish. This whole Pokemon Go thing is another example where suddenly lots of people who never go out suddenly go out because Pokemon is there. Well, that's a game element that could really help achieve behavior change. Okay, so far the behavior change excursion. Of course, technology is very important as well. We have sensors, plenty of sensors in smartphones, as in smartwatches and other things. And they can do lots of things. They can provide us with data. They can, well, help us really out here. And apart from the sensors, of course, there's also the analysis of data and algorithms, models that you could carry out once you have got the data. Here is some inspiration also for later, for a later moment if you want. But a very important thing is to really start thinking with, who is actually my intended user? Who am I making this for? And can I make a characterization of that user? I mean, if your app intends to make children move better, then your target group is children and they have a certain age. Or if you are aimed at elderly people who need help in certain activities, then that is your target group, and they are a different age group and they have totally different capabilities. So it's very important to realize, okay, what's the age group? What's the education level? Are they tech savvy? Do they know how to handle wearables, or are these things new to them? And that all influences the way you have to think about your app or your intended app. And also think about, what problem are you solving for this user, this targeted user? Is there a particular formulation of that problem, and how can you solve that problem? And if you found the solution, can your user group understand that solution, or do you have to, in what way do you have to communicate that solution? Can they do what you would like them to do? And how will you actually motivate them? So do you help them through this app? Do you help them when they get lost in your app, or when something is not clear, or do you not do that? That's all questions important to ask yourself when you are thinking about what to make and what to develop. There is some tips from from experts. You can find them online. I found this one and it's a very nice one, I think. Keep the user in mind, keep the app predictive. Don't do any very original things that people don't expect, because people like to behave according to their routine. What they always do, they would like to do. So, and presentation, I mean, make sure that colors are friendly, and that icons are clear, and that there's not too much and not too little on your screen, etc. Also, take care that your watch is a personal statement, and so is your app, meaning that maybe there is a brand that your app represents, and you should be somewhat in the style of this brand. And entice your users. Don't think, oh, I made such a great app because I'm an app developer and I really love my own work. No, that's not the criterion. The criterion is that your user really likes the app and that they are really tempted to try it. So think from your user perspective. Don't let it eat away all the power. Okay, there's some technical requirement that's also nice. And don't be intrusive. Don't have irritating vibrations all the time if it's not necessary. So just a set of tips, and you can look for more if you want. That was my part. Now I'm going to give the key to Hauke, who will be more talking from one particular domain. Welcome, Hauke.
Thank you, Sjoukje. Okay, so my name is Hauke. I work at Wageningen Economic Research as a consumer researcher. And I'm going to introduce the consumer behavior case a little bit further. So the main question here is, how can we use the smartwatch to gain more insight in consumer behavior? But first, I would like to take a little step back and try to explain, why do we investigate consumer behavior? Well, nowadays, consumers often still make unhealthy and unsustainable food choices. And this is threatening our planet, our environment, and also the healthiness of people and people's health. So we're trying to explain why consumers behave the way they do and why they perform this unhealthy and unsustainable behavior. And by explaining why consumers do this, we are able to develop interventions that contribute towards behavior change, like Sjoukje also introduced. So we want to stimulate people to make more sustainable and more healthy choices, so that they also have more sustainable and healthy diets. But this is harder perhaps than it seems, because there are a lot of factors influencing our food intake. So if you have a look at our food intake, this is firstly influenced by our knowledge. So do we know which type of foods are healthy or not? And do we know what is good for us, but also our habits? So if you're used to eating a type of food very often, then it's hard to change this behavior. And also your attitudes towards the food and also your preferences. So you might like a certain type of vegetable very much, but the other type you wouldn't eat that often because you don't like it. Then the second one is context. So a lot of these things are also context dependent. So what is the time that you're eating? So if I offer you a snack at 10 in the morning, you might respond differently compared to 4 in the afternoon, and also the type of snack you would eat at that time. It also depends on the place where you're at and the situation. So are you still studying? Are you at your work? Are you having dinner with friends or having some drinks with your friends? That all depends and influences our food intake. Then there are also some other environmental aspects. You might think of promotions in the supermarket, which tempt you to buy different things. Other consumer characteristics. So, for example, religion. You might not eat pork meat because of your religion. Your life course is a very important factor as well. If you're a student, you might have different eating habits compared to when you're older or having a family, and also your health status, and also the food product characteristics. So the texture of the food or the flavor of the food might all have an impact on how much you eat and what you eat. For example, if the food has more variety or if you're eating different things, then probably you will eat more because you get less bored of the taste. So those are all aspects that you should take into account when investigating food intake. So this seems quite hard to analyze it all at once. Well, it is. We have different types of data collection methods for this. So the first one would be the very traditional paper-based questionnaire, in which you can ask questions about what people eat, but also about preferences, how sustainable they are. So you really ask people about their opinions, their behavior, etc. Same for the web-based questionnaire, although we use it more often nowadays because it's easier for analysis, because otherwise you have to type in all the paper-based questionnaire data. Then we have interviews, in which you can go into a little bit more depth and ask about why they consume certain things and get some more information on that. We also use phone applications, so tracking your food intake by an app, so you can indicate how much you eat of a certain ingredient and keep that up during the day. Then some newer types of data collection. We also use virtual reality. And the nice thing about virtual reality is that you can manipulate the environment. So in this case, you can see a picture of a supermarket. So we actually manipulated the tomatoes that you could see and choose. So you can have a real environment, supermarket environment, just by using virtual reality goggles. Then we also use shopping data, for example, by loyalty cards or supermarket data. So we can have some insight in what consumers actually buy. Then we have physiological measures. So we can measure heart rate, but also BMI, weight, height, activity, etc. So these are more the more objective ways of data collection, because you don't ask people. And then, of course, now we have the smartwatch. And that is the big question. What can we do with the smartwatch in relation to consumer behavior? So just to give you some inspiration, we put some examples of how to use the data in research, but also how to enrich your data by combining different data sources. So in the upper left corner, you can see that we sometimes combine the food intake that we get from the applications with the socio-demographics and food preferences of people. So you can get an idea of who eats what type of food. So that is one pretty standard way of combining data. The one to the right, you have shopping behavior, which you can measure with the virtual reality goggles. And you can also link that to socio-demographic and sustainable behavior. So what do people actually do in the supermarket? What do they choose with the virtual reality goggles? And what do they say they prefer or that they engage in sustainable behavior? Yes or no? Below those two, you can also see too that in which I try to incorporate the smartwatch. So for example, you can measure heart rate by the smartwatch. And it would be very interesting to see when you continuously track a consumer's heart rate and link it to their food intake, what would be the correlation between eating behavior and stress levels? So you can investigate that as well using the smartwatch. So that is pretty interesting, I would say. And also some activity tracking, and you could also incorporate that or try to see what the heart rate is during the activity. And then the last one, you can also measure GPS or location with the smartwatch. And it would be, of course, very interesting to see whether consumers during the different times a day would make different choices in the supermarket, and also the amount they buy, the type of food they buy, etc. So that would also be an idea for using the smartwatch in consumer research. But of course, these are just ideas to get you a little bit inspired. But if you have different ideas or creative other things you could think of, please let them know, because we're very interested in that as well. So now the case. The biggest question that we have is, how can smartwatches be used to increase our insight in food-related and sustainable consumer behavior? So this is the really one thing we would like to know. And you can think of what type of research questions could be answered with smartwatch data, what data from smartwatches is interesting, but also feasible and reliable to collect. So a bit more technical question. And with what other types of data can this smartwatch data be combined, and how can we do that? So thank you very much for your attention, and we need your help. I'm very much looking forward to seeing all your creative ideas and input from this case.
And hello to all of you. Well, okay, thank you for the nice presentation. I will now give you the third presentation and a bit of an input of what else is going to be happening at the hackathon. But before I start, I would actually like to say that I just hail to you from a hackathon. We had a hackathon this whole weekend from Friday to Sunday. And what Dawood said, I can definitely back up. It is a lot of fun. And even though, for example, in our case, we didn't win, it was definitely absolutely worth it just to have this experience and to be a bit out and about and engage in this interesting way of problem solution fit. So I'm going to tell you a bit about a specific use case that we have, Floribold. It's a business customer that we have. And I will also fill you in a bit on the concept that we're really interested in here, the concept called biophilia. And I think this is a nice example, because if you see as an image of that, at least for me personally, this always has a kind of impact. And this very much relates to what we call biophilia. Bio stands for nature, philia for love, and it means more or less the love of nature. So we know this is a term in pop culture, in literature, and poetry, but we actually also know scientifically and behaviorally speaking that there are reactions that we in our body have to natural stimuli around us, to really being in a natural environment really changes us more than just our mindset, but it really has impacts on our body. On the bottom of the slide, you see an interesting study that I find. So spending time in nature, for example, improves cognitive performance. So if you as students are looking to get a little extra kick, it's definitely nice to, for example, learn in nature. But this is one of the studies that I find most interesting, actually, about this whole idea of biophilia, because it has such grave effects and consequences on the people that benefited from it. So biophilia in action was really studied in the 1980s the first time by a psychologist called Ulrich in the States, in Pennsylvania. And you had people sitting in this normally very depressing hospital beds. And those of you who were unfortunate to already had to sit in a hospital or lie in hospital, you know that they're normally not very nice. And in this hospital, some people looked outside of the window and saw trees in the park. And some people looked out the window and saw a brick wall, which is obviously quite more depressing. And from the people who looked out of the window and saw the park, they normally had lower rates of pain medication and lower rates of pain and had a faster recovery rate, up to 3 days where they're faster out of the hospital, which is, I think, an absolutely fascinating result. So this really suggests that biophilia is this love for nature that we experience when we see natural stimuli, when we are out in nature, really does something with us that is not really sufficiently understood yet. And this is where we would like to get in. So because we are also asking the questions, how can this be used on a day-to-day basis? Because we know that we do know that nature has great impacts on us, and as a psychologist, my recommendation would be go and be out more in nature, but this is often not very feasible because we are living mostly in cities and we are spending most of our time indoors, especially now during this COVID-19 crisis. So how can we use this idea and this concept in our daily and normal life? And this year, actually, some first research has been published about this, which I personally was very happy about. So we already seem to benefit from biophilia and the impacts of nature on us and our cognition, on our physiology, just by being in a green office environment or being in the green rooms and having a very natural environment around us, even though when we're indoors. And this was really nice because it also opened the door of having some more physiological indicators. For example, heart rate variability or just the heart rate, and also other factors as skin conductance level and blood pressure. So this already shows us that with some of the passive measurement capabilities of a smartwatch, we are actually able to approximate this. So we are kind of able, if we know the environment where people are, and we can read from the heart rate variability, how maybe having a lot of plants, having a very natural surrounding can really be soothing for you and can really have a nice impact on you. And this is also something that we are very happy about because this environment is where our business client comes in. We are working with Flory Worlds, and it's an experience center in Aalsmeer. It's close to Amsterdam. And we've been there ourselves this year in September. It's quite nice. It is really nice and beautiful to see how they all designed this. They have several experience rooms that are right behind each other and that have a different focus in each room. In some rooms you see really just the kind of flowers that are sitting there, and other rooms it's more of this natural forest kind of idea. And although they did open this year, and despite COVID-19, they already had way more than 5,000 visitors. And they also have a lot of technological or interactive stations. So they have a lot of apps within these different rooms with the flowers where people can interact. So there is also, what Hauke earlier said, there's some form of questionnaire already integrated that can help us, give us additional insights and more information. So if you would help us in this challenge for the hackathon, we would, of course, have to work with Flory Worlds, not only with us at Becker, but also with Flory Worlds as a business client. And this is an interesting mix because I think having two stakeholders in such a challenge really helps you to understand better how to solve a problem so that it really tailors and fits to what the people, what your customers or your stakeholders find important. So in this case, Flurry World has two goals. They want to understand their visitors better. So they would like to know what do the visitors like in terms of flowers, but they would also like to know how do the flowers potentially help them. So in this sense of biophilia, how does a very flowery room around us actually lowers our heart rate and will benefit us and will benefit our health. Second of all, the goal of Flurry World is to cooperate with the bigger Dutch flower sector or the Dutch flower industry. So any solution that we would really like to work on would ideally cover these two topics. And their values, which kind of can give you a bit of an idea of how they're working, how they're ticking, is that they really like using novel technologies. So smartwatches are something that fits really nicely to them, but they also respect the privacy of the visitors. So you as developers can also be sure that if you design something and give it to us or the business client, that we will treat this as it should be treated, namely we'll respect privacy and will really help to get most of the knowledge while respecting the people that have helped us in that. So help us to help our business clients. So our main questions really to you are two. How can we help our business client with proving the positive impacts of flowers and plants on people? And second, how can we help Flurry World to understand the visitors better? So any solution that would come from your side should ideally cover one or two of these points. I introduced biophilia as an option, that this might be something that you can use, but this is of course not a limit for you. Again, this is a hackathon. I gave you a description of the situation, of us, of the customer, and of the situation. So your curiosity and your creativity can really be the boundary here, and we'll be very curious to see what you can come up with. And if you have any questions about this, please feel free to send me an email and I'll gladly catch up with you on any of these other points. And this would be all from me for now. And I can moderate the questions. Oh, no, I think I'm not.
No, you can, of course. Thank you very much, Sjoukje, Haukje, and Marvin. I would like to invite everybody back on stage and we can close the slideshow. So let's open the chat and see what questions we have. We have a question of Pim regarding data privacy. What personal characteristics are you allowed to measure with an app? Who's best to answer that question? Maybe Daud?
I can try to give an answer, but I would also invite other speakers to give their view. So obviously there is the GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation, European, which is obligated, I guess, since several years for companies who need to comply on that regulation. So it depends on, I would say, what type of application. And in this type of application, you also need to explicitly describe what type of data you are measuring and how you would process it, and all these other principles of GDPR.
Yeah, the main thing is you need to ask for consent. So if you have consent, you can store, and if you have no consent, then you can only anonymize result, and for that you also need consent. So yeah, usually even when you start an app and the app needs your GPS or needs your whatever, then they already ask, can I please use your functionality to have the GPS of your smartwatch available in my app? I mean, even those questions are need consent. So you need consent for everything. But if you have the user's consent and you, of course, you treat the data respectfully, as the GDPR also prescribes, then you are allowed to do that.
Okay. I don't see other questions, but I was wondering if it's clear to everybody the differences between the three cases, if there are more questions about that, because we heard Marvin about the the flowers case. But please.
Well, maybe I should give a little addition there, because I didn't really present the case, but actually the third case is more the technical focus on data application. So we didn't have an expert for that today, but there are technical experts available, and if we have people who really like to be on the technical side, then that is the third case, really.
Yes.
Yeah. It's good to mention that indeed, Xiaokim. So we have three cases. Flory World, consumer behavior from a food intake perspective, and we have technical challenges. And we have described all these challenges also on our information page. So you can find them also there. I see we also have polls, Miriam.
Yes.
Do you want to share?
I just closed one, and I put up the button to register for the hackathon. So you still have till the 18th of November to register. You will see it right now, I think.
Yeah, I can see it at least at offers.
Yes, and by the 20th of November, we will let you know in which team you will be. So by email. After this info event, there's a recording, so we will send everybody the recording and also the presentation. Let me see if there are other questions. Pim, are the apps supposed to run on the Bengal smartwatch? That's a good question. Who wants to answer it?
I can try to give an answer. So obviously you can approach this from a technical perspective to develop an actual app on the Bengal smartwatch. And we will provide you also with all the information on how to do it without having the watch. So you can use an emulator, an online environment where you can simulate the smartwatch. So you can develop the app, but you're also allowed to have a conceptual idea, which you should support with slides. So we will ask a slide deck with the feasibility and your creative idea. You can also approach it from that perspective.
Maybe I can add out that there are also apps available in the Bengal store. So you can also search through them. There's one that measures your heart rate, for example. So if you're not that technical, I think it's still very, very easy to use the Bengal watch in this way.
Yeah. Good addition, yeah. So they are not supposed to run on the Bengal watch with your idea, but you can obviously browse through existing apps and validate your idea.
So the additional question, is it also supposed to be for Android, Apple? Not primarily. But if you present a conceptual idea, of course, it could be implemented later on any platform. But for now, if you would really like to become technical, then we invite you to become technical for the Bengal smartwatch.
Yeah, and you can also go indeed one step further. So you can, after having a Bengal smartwatch, you can create also your Android or Apple app, which will be integrated with the Bengal app.
And if I may add to that as well, I think, of course, we, at least from our side, we don't expect a full app that's ready and hacked away at this short hackathon. So I think a bit of a proof of concept of ideas, or maybe if you're also not hackers, really just show us that you understand the problem, that you really try to feel into the method and try to understand the smartwatch and how you would move forward from that. I think in our context of the Floribert exam, that would also already be very valuable.
Are there more questions? Choose a topic. I guess we have in the register form, you can choose the topic, or isn't that correct, Miriam?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
We've discussed it the last meeting. You can choose a topic that you're interested in. We want you to work on something that you're really passionate about. So yeah, of course you can choose a topic not when you register, but during the event, at the beginning of the event.
Yeah, so, but I would advise indeed to already have an idea which topic would be interesting. And then obviously you can refine that idea during the hackathon also.
So are there any more questions? Or somebody from the panel wants to say something urgent? Yeah, Marvin?
Well, nothing too urgent, just again, I think a hackathon is a great opportunity. It's a great little challenge that one can have. So
Yes.
Looking forward to seeing some of you there.
Okay, thank you so much. So we welcome you to register. And yeah, expect an email with the recording and the power and the presentation. And yeah, we hope to see you in yeah, it's in a week already almost. So thank you very much to Daoud, Haukje, Sjoukje, Marvin, and we will meet all in on the 26th and 27th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will end the meeting. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.